Imagine a world gripped by the suffocating darkness of global conflict, where the fate of nations hung precariously on the slender threads of whispered intelligence and the impenetrable walls of enemy encryption. In the chilling shadows of World War II, amidst the roar of bombers and the silent menace of U-boats, a silent, intellectual war raged, a battle of wits fought not on bloody battlefields, but within the confines of hushed rooms, against the relentless logic of machines. This was a time when the seemingly abstract realm of mathematics and logic held the terrifying power to tilt the scales of human destiny, where the ability to decipher encrypted messages could mean the difference between victory and devastating defeat. The sheer complexity of the enemy's ciphers, particularly the German Enigma machine, presented an almost insurmountable intellectual barrier, a labyrinth of permutations and combinations designed to render their communications utterly secure, giving them a terrifying advantage in the brutal dance of modern warfare. For years, the Allies wrestled with this enigma, knowing that vital intelligence lay hidden within its coded messages, yet lacking the key to unlock its secrets. Yet, within this crucible of intellectual struggle, a singular mind emerged, a figure whose quiet brilliance would not only crack the unbreakable codes of the enemy, but also lay the foundational conceptual groundwork for an entirely new era of human ingenuity, the age of artificial intelligence. This was Alan Turing, a name that resonates with both profound intellectual depth and a tragic irony, a visionary whose abstract theories and practical innovations would shape the very fabric of the modern digital world. He was an individual who saw not just the immediate military application of computational power, but the boundless, philosophical implications of machines that could think, learn, and even converse, blurring the lines between human and artificial cognition. His laboratory, whether the theoretical constructs within his mind or the bustling, top-secret wartime facility at Bletchley Park, was a crucible where abstract logic fused with engineering necessity, producing insights that were decades, sometimes a century, ahead of their time. From the theoretical Turing machine that underpins all modern computation to the practical cryptanalytic bomb machines that shattered the Enigma code, and later, to the Turing test that continues to define the very essence of machine intelligence, Turing's fingerprints are indelibly etched upon the bedrock of our digital age. Yet, for all his undeniable contributions and the lives he undoubtedly saved, a shadow of injustice and unfulfilled potential hangs over his legacy, particularly concerning his later, more ambitious, and seemingly utopian endeavors in the realm of machine intelligence. The echoes of his grandest visions, especially those concerning the potential of thinking machines, continue to captivate and intrigue, sparking debates and inspiring generations of computer scientists and philosophers. Was he a misunderstood prophet, a visionary whose genius was simply too far ahead of its time? Or did he touch upon fundamental truths about the nature of intelligence that remain largely unexplored or even suppressed? This is the extraordinary journey into the life and mind of Alan Turing, a man whose brilliance broke wartime codes and, in doing so, unknowingly laid the intellectual groundwork for a future where machines could emulate human thought. Prepare to explore the fascinating paradox of a genius who both grounded us in the grim realities of wartime intelligence and beckoned us towards a future where artificial minds might one day stand alongside our own. His story is a compelling blend of groundbreaking intellectual achievement, societal prejudice, profound philosophical inquiry, and a persistent whisper of what might have been, a legacy that continues to spark curiosity and inspire the imagination of those who dare to dream beyond the conventional. Born on June 23, 1912, in Maida Vale, London, Alan Matheson Turing entered a world that was already teetering on the brink of profound scientific and social upheaval, though his early life gave little outward indication of the seismic impact his intellect would soon have. His parents, Julius Matheson Turing and Ethel Sarah Stoney, came from a solid middle-class background. His father was a civil servant in the Indian Civil Service, which meant Alan and his elder brother, John, spent much of their early childhood in England, separated from their parents who were often away serving in India. This period of separation, while common for families in the British Empire, might have inadvertently fostered a sense of independence and a reliance on his own internal world that characterized his later genius. From a very young age, Turing exhibited an intense curiosity and an unconventional approach to learning, often struggling within the rigid confines of the traditional British public school system. He was not particularly adept at rote memorization or conforming to strict academic curricula, sometimes much to the frustration of his teachers. Instead, his mind was drawn to the underlying logic and fundamental principles of subjects, rather than superficial facts. This deep conceptual understanding, an intuitive grasp of how things truly worked, distinguished him from his peers. His early fascination with puzzles, codes, and intricate mechanical devices was evident. He would often spend hours absorbed in scientific experiments described in books, displaying a hands-on, inquisitive spirit. One famous anecdote recounts his childhood fascination with a broken clock, which he painstakingly reassembled, demonstrating an innate mechanical aptitude and an insatiable desire to understand mechanisms. His formal education began at Hazelhurst Preparatory School, where his academic performance was initially mediocre in traditional subjects. Yet his remarkable aptitude for mathematics and science began to shine through, often in unexpected ways. He later entered Sherborne School, a prestigious public school in Dorset, where his unconventionality truly stood out. He struggled with English composition and Latin, subjects highly valued at the time, but excelled in mathematics and chemistry, often solving complex problems in his own unique ways, sometimes to the bewilderment of his instructors who valued strict adherence to established methods. His passion for long-distance running also developed during this period, a physical outlet that provided a counterbalance to his intense intellectual pursuits and remained a lifelong habit. It was at Sherborne that Turing forged a deep intellectual and emotional bond with a fellow student, Christopher Morcom. Morcom shared Turing's profound interest in science and mathematics, providing a rare intellectual companionship that stimulated Turing's burgeoning ideas. They discussed complex scientific concepts, theoretical physics, and the very nature of intelligence, pushing each other to explore new intellectual frontiers. This friendship was transformative for Turing, helping him to fully embrace his intellectual curiosity and to realize the depth of his own capabilities. Tragically, Morcom died suddenly in 1930 from bovine tuberculosis, a devastating blow that profoundly affected Turing. The loss of his intellectual soulmate intensified Turing's introspection and perhaps fueled his later fascination with the concept of the mind, consciousness, and the possibility of artificial intelligence, as he sought to understand the nature of life and existence beyond the physical. Despite his unorthodox school record, Turing's exceptional mathematical talent secured him an admission to King's College, Cambridge, in 1931, a pivotal moment that set the stage for his most profound intellectual breakthroughs. At Cambridge, he found an environment that not only tolerated but celebrated intellectual curiosity and unconventional thinking. Here, he immersed himself in the abstract world of pure mathematics, logic, and philosophy, thriving in an atmosphere that encouraged deep conceptual inquiry rather than rote learning. He excelled in his studies, graduating with a first-class honors degree in mathematics in 1934. It was during his fellowship at King's College that Turing began to grapple with fundamental questions about computation and decidability, questions that would lead to his seminal work. Inspired by David Hilbert's Entscheidungsproblem, decision problem, which asked whether there existed a general algorithm to determine the truth or falsity of any mathematical statement, Turing conceived of a theoretical device that would lay the groundwork for modern computers. His early education, marked by an innate brilliance and an unconventional approach to learning, laid the essential foundation for the revolutionary ideas that would soon emerge from his unique mind, ideas that would not only help win a war, but also redefine the very boundaries of human and machine intelligence. The quiet, introspective boy with a passion for puzzles and a unique way of thinking was destined to become a giant whose intellectual legacy would echo through the digital age. His genius was an unconventional seed, but one that contained the blueprint for an entirely new computational landscape. While the world was unknowingly hurtling towards global conflict, Alan Turing, within the hallowed halls of King's College, Cambridge, was grappling with a problem of pure, abstract mathematics that would inadvertently lay the theoretical bedrock for every computer, smartphone, and digital device in existence today. His seminal paper, On Computable Numbers, with an application to the Inschätzungsproblem, published in 1936, introduced the concept of the Turing machine, a theoretical construct that revolutionized our understanding of computation and fundamentally defined what it means for something to be computable. This abstract model, born from the depths of mathematical logic, proved to be far more than an intellectual exercise. It was the blueprint for the universal computer. At its core, Hilbert's Inschätzungsproblem asked whether there could exist a mechanical procedure, an algorithm, that could, in a finite number of steps, determine the truth or falsity of any given mathematical statement. Turing approached this philosophical problem by conceptualizing what a computation truly entailed. He imagined a very simple, idealized machine, a theoretical device that could read and write symbols on an infinitely long tape, move the tape back and forth, and change its internal state based on the symbol it read. This machine, operating under a finite set of rules, could perform any calculation or logical operation that a human computer, a term then referring to a person who performed calculations, could. This seemingly rudimentary model, with its infinite tape, read/write head, and finite set of states and instructions, proved to be extraordinarily powerful. Turing demonstrated that if a problem could be solved by any conceivable algorithm, then it could be solved by a Turing machine. Conversely, if a problem could not be solved by a Turing machine, then it could not be solved by any algorithmic process whatsoever. This concept established the limits of computation, proving that certain problems are, in fact, undecidable or uncomputable by any mechanical process, providing a negative answer to Hilbert's Inschätzungsproblem. The most famous of these undecidable problems is the halting problem, which states that no general algorithm can determine whether an arbitrary program will eventually halt or run forever. The true brilliance of Turing's insight, however, lay in the concept of the universal Turing machine. He showed that one single Turing machine could be designed to simulate the behavior of any other Turing machine. This meant that a single physical machine, if designed correctly, could be programmed to perform any computation that any other specific computational machine could perform. This abstract concept of a universal machine was the theoretical precursor to the modern, general-purpose computer, a single machine capable of running any program, rather than being hardwired for only one specific task. It was the fundamental realization that hardware could be distinct from the software it ran, a concept utterly revolutionary for its time. Turing's work was initially purely theoretical, an elegant solution to a mathematical logic problem. He was not immediately concerned with building a physical machine, but with the abstract principles of computability. Yet, his paper provided the conceptual framework that would later guide the development of electronic digital computers. The logical structure, the separation of instructions from data, and the idea of a machine capable of executing any algorithm were all nascent within his theoretical model. The implications were profound. It meant that a single machine could, in principle, perform all the tasks currently distributed among countless specialized devices. While at Princeton University from 1936 to 1938, where he studied under the renowned logician Alonzo Church, Turing further refined his ideas and explored the mathematical underpinnings of his universal machine. He returned to Cambridge just as the shadows of war began to lengthen across Europe, carrying with him a mind uniquely prepared to tackle the most complex computational challenge of the era. The Turing machine, though an abstract model, served as a powerful conceptual tool for understanding the limits and capabilities of computation. It proved that many mathematical problems could, in fact, be reduced to a mechanical process, paving the way for the automation of complex calculations. His work provided the logical blueprint for the physical computers that would eventually emerge, demonstrating that a universal, programmable machine was not just a pipe dream, but a theoretical certainty. This seminal paper, largely unheralded at the time by the broader public, was a quiet earthquake in the world of mathematics and laid the indispensable foundation for the digital revolution that would define the 20th and 21st centuries. Alan Turing, the abstract logician, had, with his universal machine, designed the theoretical DNA of every computer to follow. His genius for conceptual abstraction would prove to be one of humanity's most powerful weapons in the war and, later, its most potent tool for intellectual expansion. As the ominous clouds of World War II gathered, Alan Turing, with his profound theoretical understanding of computation and his innate talent for problem-solving, was drawn into the clandestine world of Bletchley Park, the highly secretive British code-breaking center. It was here, amidst the quiet farmlands of Buckinghamshire, that a desperate, intellectual war unfolded, a critical struggle against the seemingly impenetrable German Enigma cipher, the outcome of which would profoundly influence the fate of the Allied forces and the very course of the war. Turing's arrival at Bletchley Park in September 1939, just days after Britain declared war on Germany, marked the convergence of his abstract genius with a desperate, real-world imperative. Bletchley Park was a unique crucible of intellect, bringing together mathematicians, linguists, chess masters, and classicists, an eclectic assembly of brilliant minds united by the singular goal of breaking enemy codes. The German Enigma machine was the primary target, a highly sophisticated electromechanical rotor cipher machine used by the German military to encrypt their communications. Its complexity lay in the vast number of possible settings, millions of combinations, that changed daily, making brute force decryption virtually impossible for human hands. The Germans believed their Enigma code to be unbreakable, granting them a critical strategic advantage in their U-boat campaigns in the Atlantic and their broader military operations. Turing quickly emerged as a central figure in the Hut 8 section, which was responsible for decrypting German naval Enigma messages. His initial insights were revolutionary, building upon earlier work by Polish mathematicians who had made crucial preliminary breakthroughs in understanding the Enigma's internal wiring. Turing's genius lay in his ability to apply his theoretical understanding of computability to this very practical, urgent problem. He realized that to break Enigma, one needed a machine that could systematically test the vast number of potential settings, but do so far faster than any human. His most significant contribution was the design of the bomb, an electromechanical device specifically engineered to decipher Enigma messages. The bomb was based on a cryptanalytic technique known as a crib, where codebreakers would guess a probable plaintext word or phrase, e.g., weather report or Heil Hitler, that was likely to appear in a message. The bomb would then systematically test possible Enigma settings, looking for contradictions with the crib. If a set of settings led to a contradiction, the bomb would rule them out and move on, rapidly narrowing down the millions of possibilities. Turing's design for the bomb was ingenious and practical, combining sophisticated logical reasoning with mechanical engineering. He understood that rather than trying every single setting, one could deduce settings by looking for specific, logically inconsistent patterns. He worked closely with Gordon Welchman, another brilliant mathematician at Bletchley Park, who added a crucial diagonal board to the bomb, further enhancing its efficiency by enabling more contradictions to be identified, thereby dramatically speeding up the decryption process. The first operational bomb was delivered in 1940, and subsequent machines, built by the British Tabulating Machine Company, quickly scaled up the decryption effort. These powerful machines, humming with the rhythmic clatter of rotating drums and relays, were the intellectual children of Turing's theoretical universal machine, though specialized for a specific, vital task. The successful breaking of Enigma, particularly the German naval Enigma, ultra-intelligence, was a turning point in the Battle of the Atlantic, allowing Allied convoys to avoid U-boat wolf packs and saving countless lives. It provided invaluable intelligence across all theaters of war, contributing decisively to Allied victories from North Africa to D-Day. The work at Bletchley Park was conducted under the highest levels of secrecy, and its true impact remained hidden from the public for decades after the war. Break time equals 0. 25s/. Turing and his colleagues operated in an environment of intense pressure, long hours, and the constant realization that their intellectual efforts directly translated into lives saved or lost on the battlefields and oceans. Despite his profound contributions, Turing was known for his quiet, sometimes awkward demeanor, often seen running through the grounds of Bletchley Park, his mind always engaged in the next complex problem. The success of Bletchley Park demonstrated, beyond all doubt, the immense power of systematic computation in solving seemingly intractable problems. It proved the practical utility of abstract mathematical logic in the real world and provided the fertile ground for the development of electronic digital computers. Alan Turing, the quiet codebreaker, had not only helped win a war, but had also, in the process, irrevocably linked the future of computing with the very concept of intelligence, setting the stage for the dawn of artificial intelligence. The rhythmic clatter of the bombs was the heartbeat of a new era, quietly announcing the arrival of machines that could think. With the war concluded and the monumental achievements of Bletchley Park still shrouded in impenetrable secrecy, Alan Turing, no longer constrained by immediate military imperative, turned his prodigious intellect towards the ambitious task of building a true electronic digital computer and exploring the philosophical implications of machine intelligence. His post-war career, primarily centered at the National Physical Laboratory, NPL, and later the University of Manchester, saw him transition from the theoretical realm of the Turing machine to the practical challenges of hardware design and the conceptualization of artificial intelligence. This period marked a crucial pivot in his career, as he sought to translate abstract ideas into tangible machines capable of complex thought. In 1945, Turing joined the National Physical Laboratory in Teddington, where he began work on the design for the Automatic Computing Engine, ACE. The ACE was intended to be a groundbreaking electronic stored program computer, a direct embodiment of his universal Turing machine concept. His detailed report, Proposed Electronic Calculator, laid out the complete logical design of a general-purpose computer, including its memory, processing unit, and input-output mechanisms. This design was remarkably comprehensive and foresight, incorporating concepts like a fast internal memory, using mercury delay lines, a cutting-edge technology at the time, and efficient instruction sets. Turing's vision for ACE was ambitious, aiming for a machine that would be significantly faster and more versatile than any other computer being conceived at the time, even those in the United States. He meticulously detailed the architecture, outlining how the machine would store programs and data in the same memory, a fundamental principle of the von Neumann architecture that would become standard in modern computers. He recognized that the ultimate power of a machine lay not just in its speed, but in its programmability, its ability to be adapted to an infinite number of tasks simply by changing its software. However, progress on the ACE at NPL was frustratingly slow. Bureaucratic delays, a lack of immediate funding for such an abstract and expensive project in post-war Britain, and disagreements with management about the pace and direction of the work stifled Turing's efforts. His genius was theoretical and conceptual, and he often struggled with the practicalities of managing large engineering teams and navigating institutional inertia. Despite his groundbreaking design, the first prototype of the ACE, a smaller version known as the Pilot ACE, was not completed until 1950, by which time other computers had already achieved operational status. While the Pilot ACE was ultimately a successful machine and one of the fastest computers of its day, the delays meant Turing's conceptual lead was not fully translated into a rapid construction of the world's first practical computer under his direct guidance. Frustrated by the slow pace at NPL, Turing moved to the University of Manchester in 1948, taking up a readership in the mathematics department and becoming deputy director of the Computing Machine Laboratory. Manchester was quickly becoming a hub for early computer development, with Frederick C. Williams and Tom Kilburn having built the Manchester Baby, the world's first stored program electronic computer, which successfully ran its first program in June 1948. This breakthrough at Manchester provided a more fertile ground for Turing's ideas to take root and flourish. At Manchester, Turing focused on the software aspects of computing, including developing programming techniques and, crucially, laying the groundwork for artificial intelligence. He wrote the first manual for programming the Manchester Mark I computer, one of the earliest full-scale stored program computers. It was during this period that his thoughts increasingly turned to the profound philosophical question, can machines think? His paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, published in 1950, became a foundational text for the field of artificial intelligence. This paper introduced the famous imitation game, now known as the Turing test, a conceptual experiment designed to assess a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to, or indistinguishable from, that of a human. By reframing the question from "can machines think?" to "can a machine imitate human conversation so well that a human interrogator cannot distinguish it from another human?" Turing provided a pragmatic, empirical test for machine intelligence, sidestepping the complex philosophical debates about consciousness. He also predicted that by the year 2000, a machine would be able to pass the Turing test, a remarkably prescient, though perhaps optimistic, forecast. The post-war years were a period of intense intellectual output for Turing, as he wrestled with the practicalities of building computing machines and the philosophical implications of what those machines could achieve. His work at NPL and Manchester, though not always immediately successful in terms of rapid hardware development, laid the indispensable conceptual and theoretical groundwork for the computer revolution that would follow. More importantly, it was during this time that he truly cemented his legacy as the progenitor of artificial intelligence, daring to ask fundamental questions about the nature of thought and the potential for machines to emulate it, setting the intellectual agenda for a century of AI research. The quiet philosopher of computation was becoming the bold visionary of machine intelligence. In the annals of artificial intelligence, no concept is more enduring or more frequently debated than the Turing test, a brilliant and pragmatic philosophical probe conceived by Alan Turing in his seminal 1950 paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence. Published in the philosophical journal Mind, this paper marked a pivotal moment, shifting the focus from the abstract question of "can machines think?", a question Turing deemed too meaningless to deserve discussion, to a concrete, observable criterion for machine intelligence. The Turing test became, and largely remains, the foundational benchmark for assessing whether a machine can exhibit intelligent behavior indistinguishable from that of a human. Turing ingeniously reframed the problem by introducing the imitation game. He proposed a scenario involving three participants: a human interrogator, a human confederate, and a machine. The interrogator, isolated from both the human and the machine, communicates with them purely through text-based conversations, to remove biases based on voice or appearance. The interrogator's task is to determine which of the two hidden entities is the human and which is the machine. The machine's goal is to fool the interrogator into believing it is human, while the human confederate aims to help the interrogator make the correct identification. Turing posited that if, after a reasonable period of interaction, the interrogator cannot reliably distinguish the machine from the human, then the machine can be said to have passed the Turing test, thereby exhibiting a form of intelligence. The brilliance of the Turing test lies in its pragmatic and operational definition of intelligence, sidestepping the quagmire of defining consciousness or thought in philosophical terms. Turing argued that if a machine could engage in conversation so convincingly that it could fool a human, then from a practical standpoint, its cognitive abilities were effectively equivalent to human intelligence, at least within the domain of linguistic interaction. He recognized that the essence of intelligence, for the purpose of this test, lay in the behavior and output of the entity, rather than its internal composition or philosophical state of being. In his paper, Turing also presciently addressed common objections to the idea of machine intelligence. He tackled arguments ranging from theological objections, only God can create a soul, to the head in the sand fallacy, it would be too dreadful if machines could think. He particularly focused on the Lady Lovelace's objection, which asserted that machines could only do what they were programmed to do and could never originate anything new. Turing countered by suggesting that while a machine might not consciously originate, its output could appear novel and creative to an observer, and that the concept of creativity itself was complex, even for humans. He also discussed the implications for learning machines, proposing that machines could be designed to learn from experience, modifying their own programs, thereby acquiring new capabilities without explicit pre-programming. Turing made a bold prediction that by the year 2000, an average interrogator will not have more than 70% chance of making the right identification after 5 minutes of questioning. While this specific prediction has not been fully met, no machine has consistently passed the full Turing test under rigorous conditions for an extended period. His foresight into the rapid advancement of computing power and AI capabilities was remarkably prescient. The very existence of sophisticated chatbots and large language models in the 21st century, capable of generating incredibly human-like text, demonstrates how close we have come to the conversational aspect of his vision. The Turing test, despite its widespread influence, has also faced considerable criticism over the decades. Some argue that it is too narrow, focusing only on linguistic intelligence and ignoring other forms of intelligence, such as emotional understanding, creativity in non-textual domains, or physical manipulation of the world. Others contend that it encourages deception rather than genuine intelligence, and that a machine merely imitating intelligence is not truly thinking. Critics also point out that the test can be gamed by exploiting human biases or simply by generating convincing text, even without true understanding. Despite these criticisms, the Turing test remains an indispensable conceptual tool in AI research. It provides a concrete goal for AI developers, a touchstone for philosophical discussions about machine consciousness, and a common language for debating the capabilities and limitations of artificial intelligence. Alan Turing's Computing Machinery and Intelligence stands as a foundational text not only for artificial intelligence, but also for the philosophy of mind. It dared to ask the audacious question, what if machines could think? By providing a pragmatic framework for exploring this question, Turing set the agenda for decades of research, sparking the imaginations of scientists and philosophers alike. The Turing test, a simple yet profound conceptual game, continues to challenge our understanding of what it means to be intelligent, ensuring Alan Turing's enduring legacy as the visionary who truly inaugurated the dawn of AI. Its implications continue to reverberate through every conversation about the future of intelligent machines. While the Enigma machine presented a formidable challenge, the Germans developed an even more complex and sophisticated cipher system for their high-level strategic communications, known as the Lorenz cipher, codenamed Tunny by the British. This cipher, used by Hitler and his high command, was significantly more complex than Enigma, employing a teleprinter-based system with 12 wheels, offering an exponentially greater number of permutations and rendering manual decryption efforts virtually impossible. Breaking Lorenz required a revolutionary leap in computing technology, a leap that would again place Alan Turing and the brilliant minds at Bletchley Park at the forefront of the digital revolution, leading to the development of the world's first programmable electronic digital computer, Colossus. The discovery of Lorenz's complexity occurred in 1941 when an operational error by a German telegraph operator led to two identical messages being sent with the same key settings, a critical mistake that allowed British cryptanalysts, particularly John Tiltman and Bill Tutte, to perform a brilliant piece of manual cryptanalysis, painstakingly deducing the underlying structure of the Lorenz machine. Tutte's groundbreaking work revealed the logical design of Lorenz's 12 wheels and their intricate relationships, providing the theoretical basis for attacking the cipher. However, even with this understanding, the sheer volume of calculations required to break daily Lorenz messages was beyond human capability and even the capabilities of the earlier bombs, which were designed specifically for Enigma. This immense computational challenge led to the conceptualization and development of Colossus, a series of pioneering electronic computers. While not directly designed by Turing, his earlier theoretical work on computable numbers and his active participation in the intellectual environment of Bletchley Park undoubtedly influenced the conceptual framework for such a machine. The primary architect of Colossus was Tommy Flowers, a brilliant post office engineer who conceived of a fully electronic machine using thousands of vacuum tubes to rapidly process encrypted teleprinter messages. Unlike the electromechanical bombs, Colossus was purely electronic, operating at unprecedented speeds and without any moving mechanical parts other than the paper tape reader. The first Colossus machine, Colossus Mark I, became operational in December 1943. It was specifically designed to discover the wheel settings of the Lorenz cipher machine, the Chi will patterns, a process known as wheel breaking. The speed and efficiency of Colossus were astonishing. It could read paper tape at 5,000 characters per second and perform complex logical operations on the data, dramatically reducing the time required to break Lorenz messages from weeks of manual effort to mere hours or even minutes. This rapid decryption provided critical, high-level intelligence to the Allied command, giving them unparalleled insight into German strategic planning. The success of Colossus led to the development of improved versions, the Colossus Mark II, which was even faster and more capable. By the end of the war, 10 Colossus machines were in operation at Bletchley Park, processing vast amounts of German communications daily. The intelligence derived from Lorenz, Tunney, played a crucial role in Allied strategic decisions, particularly during the D-Day landings, as it provided real-time updates on German troop movements, defensive preparations, and counterattack plans. The ability to read Hitler's most secret messages undoubtedly saved countless Allied lives and shortened the war. Crucially, Colossus was not merely a specialized code-breaking machine. It was the world's first programmable electronic digital computer. While it was programmed by switches and plugs rather than stored programs in the modern sense, though it had some reprogrammable logic, its electronic nature, its ability to perform logical operations at high speed, and its conceptual similarity to a general-purpose computer were revolutionary. It validated the concept of electronic computation on a scale previously unimaginable and demonstrated the immense practical power of digital machines. The existence of Colossus and its pivotal role in the war remained one of the most closely guarded secrets for decades after the conflict. The machines were dismantled, and the plans and documentation were largely destroyed to maintain secrecy, delaying public recognition of this monumental technological achievement until the 1970s. Alan Turing, though not the primary engineer of Colossus, was deeply involved in the intellectual environment that fostered its creation and directly benefited from its computational power for his own cryptanalytic work. The development of Colossus demonstrated the practical application of the theoretical principles of computability that Turing had laid out years earlier. It showed that a fully electronic, programmable machine was not only possible, but incredibly effective in solving real-world, highly complex problems. The code-breaking efforts at Bletchley Park, culminating in Colossus, were the secret birth of the digital age, a quiet revolution born of wartime necessity, with Alan Turing's visionary mind at its intellectual core. For decades after the cessation of hostilities in 1945, Alan Turing and the thousands of brilliant minds who toiled in the secretive confines of Bletchley Park remained unsung heroes, their monumental contributions to the Allied victory shrouded in a cloak of impenetrable secrecy. The very nature of their work, the breaking of enemy codes, was considered so sensitive, so vital to national security, that the British government maintained strict secrecy surrounding the ultra-intelligence for over 30 years after the war. This profound silence meant that Turing, who played such a pivotal role in designing the intellectual machinery of decryption, was denied public recognition for his wartime heroics during his lifetime, a tragic irony for a man whose genius saved countless lives. The reasons for this prolonged secrecy were manifold and strategically critical. Firstly, the methods and machines used to break Enigma and Lorenz were incredibly sophisticated and relied on a deep understanding of cryptanalysis and early computing. Revealing these methods could have provided invaluable insights to potential future adversaries, compromising national security in a post-war world that quickly transitioned into the Cold War. Maintaining the illusion that the codes remained unbroken also prevented any lingering German officials from realizing how thoroughly their communications had been compromised, thus preserving a psychological advantage. Secondly, some of the techniques employed, particularly the exploitation of German operational errors, could only remain effective if the Germans never learned of their vulnerabilities. The security protocols at Bletchley Park were exceptionally stringent. Personnel were sworn to lifelong secrecy under the Official Secrets Act, with severe penalties for any breaches. The vast majority of workers did not know the full scope of the operations, each working on only a small piece of the puzzle. Even after the war, the silence was enforced, leading many codebreakers to carry the burden of their secret achievements alone, unable to share their experiences even with close family or friends. They simply returned to their pre-war lives, their heroic deeds remaining locked within the confidential files of the British government. For Alan Turing, this meant that his singular brilliance in conceptualizing the bomb machines that broke Enigma and his intellectual contributions to the broader computing effort at Bletchley Park went entirely unacknowledged by the public. He was known to a small circle of elite mathematicians and cryptanalysts, but his name did not grace headlines or receive national accolades for his wartime service. While he received an OBE, Officer of the Order of the British Empire, in 1946 for his wartime services, the citation was deliberately vague, referring only to services to the Foreign Office, giving no hint of the true nature or magnitude of his contributions. This public silence also extended to the pioneering development of electronic computing at Bletchley Park, specifically the Colossus machines. These were the world's first large-scale electronic digital computers, yet their existence was kept secret for so long that credit for the invention of the computer was often solely attributed to American efforts, such as ENIAC. The physical machines themselves were largely dismantled and their blueprints destroyed to maintain the secrecy, effectively erasing a significant chapter in computing history from public record for decades. The personal cost of this secrecy for individuals like Turing was immense. Unable to openly discuss his most profound work, he lacked the public recognition and validation that might have offered some protection or support during the tragic events of his later life. The weight of carrying such a vital secret, while continuing to push the boundaries of scientific thought in isolation, must have been immense. It contributed to the perception of his eccentricity and overshadowed his undeniable genius in the public eye. It was not until the mid-1970s, with the declassification of official documents and the publication of books by former Bletchley Park insiders like F.W. Winterbotham's The Ultra Secret, 1974, that the full story of the code-breaking efforts began to emerge. This gradual revelation stunned the world, finally giving credit to the unsung heroes who had worked in the shadows. For Alan Turing, however, this public recognition came decades too late. He had already suffered persecution and died tragically. His wartime heroism and his foundational role in shaping the digital age largely unknown to the general public he had so profoundly impacted. The story of his public silence is a stark reminder of the sacrifices demanded by national security and the often delayed, sometimes posthumous, recognition of true genius. His brilliance was a secret weapon, and its very effectiveness ensured its prolonged concealment. Amidst his unparalleled scientific achievements and his pivotal role in saving countless lives during World War II, Alan Turing's life took a tragic and unjust turn due to the pervasive societal prejudices of his era, ultimately leading to his persecution and a premature, heartbreaking death. In the early 1950s, a deeply homophobic legal system and societal intolerance in Britain collided with Turing's private life, revealing a darker side of a nation that had so greatly benefited from his genius. His story stands as a stark and painful reminder of the human cost of discrimination and a profound stain on the historical record. In 1952, Turing's home in Manchester was burgled. During the police investigation, he openly admitted to having a sexual relationship with the burglar, Arnold Murray, a frankness that was characteristic of Turing's honest and direct nature, but which proved devastating in the legal climate of the time. Homosexual acts were illegal in Britain, defined as gross indecency, and carried severe penalties, including imprisonment. Turing was arrested and charged under Section 11 of the Criminal Law Amendment Act 1885. Faced with a choice between imprisonment and chemical castration, hormone treatment, Turing, unwilling to endure a prison sentence that would undoubtedly halt his crucial research, opted for the latter. He underwent a year-long course of estrogen hormone treatment, which led to significant physical side effects, including gynecomastia, breast development, and a loss of libido. The emotional and psychological toll of this enforced treatment was immense, a profound violation of his autonomy and dignity. The very state he had so valiantly served now subjected him to public humiliation and physical alteration for simply being true to his identity. Furthermore, his conviction led to the revocation of his security clearance. This was a devastating blow for a man whose life's work revolved around national security and cutting-edge computational research. The authorities, paranoid about the risks of espionage during the height of the Cold War, deemed him a security risk, effectively barring him from continuing his vital work for the government and significantly limiting his access to sensitive research projects. His brilliance, once deemed indispensable, was now viewed with suspicion, his potential squandered by a short-sighted and discriminatory system. The personal and professional isolation imposed by his conviction deepened Turing's already solitary nature. He became increasingly withdrawn, his vibrant intellectual life overshadowed by the stigma and the physical and mental effects of the hormone treatment. His career, once on an upward trajectory, was severely hampered, his opportunities for collaborative research curtailed. The injustice of his situation was compounded by the fact that the full extent of his wartime contributions remained a state secret, preventing any public outcry or defense based on his heroic service. He was a hero whose heroism remained unsung, even as he faced public disgrace. On June 7, 1954, just 2 years after his conviction, Alan Turing was found dead in his home from cyanide poisoning. An apple, partially eaten and laced with cyanide, was found beside his bed. The official verdict was suicide. While some theories suggest accidental poisoning, he reportedly experimented with chemicals and had an absent-minded professor persona. The prevailing view, supported by the circumstances of his life and the emotional distress he endured, is that his death was a deliberate act, a tragic culmination of the persecution he suffered. He was only 41 years old. Turing's death represented an immense loss to science, particularly to the nascent field of artificial intelligence, which he had so profoundly influenced. It silenced one of the most brilliant minds of the 20th century, a visionary who was just beginning to scratch the surface of machine intelligence. The story of his persecution stands as a stark indictment of past societal intolerance and a powerful argument for equality and acceptance. It highlights how prejudice can not only destroy individual lives, but also tragically impede scientific progress and squander invaluable human potential. Decades later, as the full extent of his wartime heroism became public and societal attitudes towards homosexuality slowly began to shift, a profound sense of injustice emerged. In 2009, then Prime Minister Gordon Brown issued a public apology for the appalling treatment of Alan Turing. In 2013, Queen Elizabeth II granted Turing a posthumous royal pardon for his conviction. These acts, while long overdue, represent a belated recognition of the monumental wrong inflicted upon a true national hero. Alan Turing's tragedy serves as a powerful reminder that while genius can lead to extraordinary advancements, it is ultimately humanity's capacity for empathy and justice that determines the true measure of a civilized society. His quiet brilliance saved a nation, but the nation's prejudice broke him. The theoretical construct of the universal Turing machine, conceived by Alan Turing in 1936, and his later foundational work in artificial intelligence, exemplified by the Turing test in 1950, are not merely parallel achievements, but represent a profoundly symbiotic relationship, where the abstract definition of computation directly underpins the very possibility of machine intelligence. Turing's genius lay in his ability to bridge the seemingly disparate realms of pure mathematical logic and the nascent field of artificial thought, demonstrating how the mechanics of computation could give rise to behaviors we associate with intelligence. This intellectual synthesis is at the very core of modern AI. The universal Turing machine provided the conceptual blueprint for any general-purpose computer. It demonstrated that a single, sufficiently complex machine could be programmed to simulate any other conceivable computational process. This abstract principle of universality is fundamental to AI because it implies that if intelligence can be reduced to a series of computable steps, a sequence of logical operations on symbols, then a machine can in principle achieve it. The Turing machine established that the complexity of a task does not necessarily require an equally complex, specialized machine. Rather, a universal machine, given the right program, can perform any computable function. This provides the logical justification for pursuing AI. If thinking is a form of computation, then a universal computer is capable of thinking. Conversely, Turing's work on AI, particularly the Turing test, provided a tangible, behavioral goal for the machines whose theoretical foundations he had laid. The Turing test proposed an empirical way to measure thinking, not by peering into the machine's internal consciousness, but by observing its output. Can it fool a human into believing it is another human through conversation? This behavioral approach meant that AI research could progress without getting bogged down in philosophical debates about subjective experience. Instead, researchers could focus on building programs that produced intelligent-seeming behavior, relying on the computational power of the universal Turing machine as their underlying engine. Consider the practical implications. The universal Turing machine dictates that the hardware of a general-purpose computer can be used to run any program. This means the same physical machine that performs complex scientific calculations can also be programmed to play chess, translate languages, or generate human-like text, all tasks associated with intelligence. The challenge for AI researchers then became one of creating the right programs, algorithms, and data that would enable the universal machine to exhibit intelligent behavior. Turing's framework suggested that intelligence, at its core, could be viewed as a very complex form of information processing, reducible to a finite set of rules and operations. Furthermore, Turing's insights into learning machines, discussed within his 1950 paper, directly linked the theoretical capabilities of his universal machine to the future of AI. He envisioned machines that could modify their own programs based on experience, essentially learning and improving over time, a concept fundamental to modern machine learning and neural networks. He anticipated that such machines would not just execute predefined instructions, but would evolve their own internal states and rules, leading to emergent intelligence. This prescient understanding highlighted the dynamic, adaptive nature required for true AI, a capability directly enabled by the reprogrammability of a universal computer. The symbiotic relationship means that without the theoretical underpinnings of the universal Turing machine, the very concept of a general-purpose computer capable of running AI algorithms would be absent. Conversely, without the compelling goal of achieving machine intelligence, the practical development and widespread adoption of universal computers might have progressed differently or more slowly. Turing provided both the how, the universal computer, and the what, the goal of passing the Turing test, creating a powerful feedback loop that has driven the field of AI for over 7 decades. Modern AI, with its sophisticated algorithms for deep learning, natural language processing, and pattern recognition, is a direct descendant of Turing's foundational ideas. Large language models that generate human-like text are essentially complex programs running on universal computing architectures, striving to pass a conversational Turing test. Robotics and autonomous systems rely on the computational power of embedded processors, executing algorithms that mimic aspects of human decision-making and perception. Alan Turing's singular genius lay in recognizing that the seemingly abstract problem of computability held the key to unlocking the secrets of intelligence, creating a future where machines could not only calculate, but also, perhaps, truly think. The Turing machine and the Turing test are two sides of the same revolutionary coin, perpetually intertwined in the ongoing quest to understand and create artificial intelligence. The conceptual threads spun by Alan Turing in the mid-20th century, from his abstract Turing machine to his practical wartime designs, are inextricably woven into the very fabric of every modern computing device, from supercomputers to the smartphone in your pocket. His enduring legacy lies not just in the foundational theories he established, but in the direct and indirect influence he exerted on the architectural design, logical operation, and programming principles that define contemporary computing. Without Turing's profound insights, the digital revolution would have unfolded quite differently, if at all. The most direct lineage can be traced from his theoretical universal Turing machine to the practical development of the stored program computer. Turing's 1945 ACE report, detailing the logical design of an electronic digital computer, was remarkably comprehensive and prescient. It outlined a machine where programs and data resided in the same memory, a concept central to the von Neumann architecture that became the standard for virtually all computers. Although the construction of the ACE itself faced delays, its design principles influenced other early British computers, and its conceptual clarity was a major contribution to the nascent field of computer architecture. Every general-purpose computer today, capable of running diverse software from word processors to video games, is essentially a physical realization of Turing's universal machine. His wartime work at Bletchley Park, though shrouded in secrecy for decades, also profoundly shaped the practical development of electronic computing. The bomb machines, designed to break the Enigma code, demonstrated the immense power of electromechanical computation for complex, repetitive tasks. More significantly, the Colossus machines, developed to decrypt the Lorenz cipher, were the world's first large-scale electronic digital computers. While not directly built by Turing, his intellectual environment and foundational theories contributed to the conceptual leap from mechanical to electronic computation. Colossus proved the practical viability and immense speed advantages of purely electronic processing, setting the stage for the post-war explosion in computer development. Turing also made significant, albeit lesser-known, contributions to early programming. At the University of Manchester, he developed programming techniques for the Manchester Mark I computer, one of the world's earliest stored program machines. His work on debugging and operating systems, though rudimentary by today's standards, laid some of the groundwork for modern software development. He recognized that the hardware was merely the engine. The true power lay in the instructions, the algorithms, that drove it. Every line of code written today, every software application, is ultimately an implementation of an algorithm designed to run on a Turing-complete machine. Beyond direct technical influence, Turing's philosophical inquiries into machine intelligence profoundly shaped the very goals and aspirations of computing. The Turing test provided a conceptual benchmark for AI, stimulating generations of researchers to pursue machines capable of human-like intelligence. His paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, introduced concepts of machine learning, neural networks, and the idea of machines that could adapt and improve, all of which are central to contemporary AI research. Your smartphone, with its voice assistants, facial recognition, and predictive text capabilities, is a direct heir to Turing's vision of intelligent machines capable of interacting with humans in sophisticated ways. Consider the ubiquity of computational devices today, from personal computers and laptops to tablets, smartwatches, and the vast server farms that power the internet and cloud computing. Each relies on the core principles of stored program architecture and the ability to execute any algorithm, concepts rooted in Turing's theoretical work. The digital revolution, with its profound impact on communication, commerce, science, and daily life, owes an immense debt to the foundational insights of Alan Turing. His abstract ideas, once confined to philosophical papers, have become the tangible reality that underpins our interconnected, information-driven world. Turing's legacy is a continuous, living influence. Every time a program executes, every time data is processed, every time an intelligent algorithm makes a decision, it echoes the genius of the man who, in the mid-20th century, dared to define the very essence of computation and to envision a future where machines could think. From the massive electronic brains of the past to the compact, powerful devices of the present, Alan Turing's blueprint for computing remains remarkably relevant and utterly indispensable. His mind truly laid the architectural foundation for the digital age, a silent, pervasive force in every byte and circuit. To truly grasp the magnitude of Alan Turing's wartime achievements, one must first comprehend the formidable challenge posed by the German Enigma machine, a cryptographic device whose intricate design and operational sophistication made it the single most important cipher machine of World War II. It was the backbone of German military communication, encrypting messages that guided U-boat wolf packs in the Atlantic, coordinated troop movements on land, and conveyed vital strategic intelligence across every theater of war. The Allies knew that breaking Enigma was paramount to victory, but its complexity seemed, for a time, insurmountable. The Enigma machine was an electromechanical rotor cipher device, essentially a sophisticated typewriter that scrambled plaintext into ciphertext. At its heart were a series of rotating wheels, or rotors, each with a unique internal wiring that performed a substitution cipher. When a key was pressed, an electrical current flowed through a plug board, then through the set of rotors, into a reflector, back through the rotors, and finally back through the plug board to light up a lamp indicating the enciphered letter. Crucially, after each key press, one or more of the rotors would advance, changing the substitution alphabet for the next letter, creating an incredibly complex sequence of transformations. The security of Enigma stemmed from several layers of complexity. Firstly, the number of rotors varied, typically 3 for Army/Air Force Enigma, 5 for Naval Enigma, and their initial order could be changed. Secondly, the starting position of each rotor, the ring setting, could be set daily according to a key sheet. Thirdly, a plug board at the front of the machine allowed for pairs of letters to be swapped before and after the rotor encryption, adding another layer of complexity that significantly increased the number of possible permutations. The reflector also contributed to the complexity by ensuring that no letter could ever encrypt to itself. The sheer number of possible daily settings for the Enigma machine, estimated to be around 159 quintillion, 1.59 times 10 to the power of 18, for a 3-rotor Enigma with a plug board, made a brute force attack impossible for human calculations. The German operators believed their cipher was unbreakable. However, they made crucial procedural mistakes and assumptions that, combined with the brilliant insights of cryptanalysts, ultimately led to its undoing. The first significant breakthroughs came from Polish mathematicians, led by Marian Rejewski, who, in the 1930s, reverse-engineered the internal wiring of the Enigma rotors and developed electromechanical bombs, precursors to Turing's design, to help break early Enigma messages. Their work, shared with the British just before the war, provided the vital foundation upon which Bletchley Park would build. At Bletchley Park, Alan Turing's genius was instrumental in refining and industrializing the Enigma decryption process, particularly for the more complex naval Enigma, which had additional rotors and stricter protocols. Turing's design for the bomb machine was a significant improvement on the Polish design, specifically tailored to exploit weaknesses in the German operating procedures, particularly the use of cribs, guessed plaintext phrases. The bomb was designed to systematically rule out incorrect Enigma settings at high speed, dramatically narrowing down the possibilities until the correct daily key could be found. The breaking of Enigma, codenamed Ultra Intelligence, provided the Allies with unparalleled insight into German military operations. It allowed them to anticipate U-boat movements in the Battle of the Atlantic, redirecting convoys away from danger and saving countless ships and lives. It provided crucial intelligence for campaigns in North Africa, the invasion of Italy, and most notably, the D-Day landings, where Allied commanders had real-time knowledge of German defensive plans and troop deployments. The intelligence gained from Enigma decryption is widely credited with shortening the war by at least 2 years and saving millions of lives. The Enigma machine was more than just a piece of wartime technology. It was a symbol of the intellectual arms race that ran parallel to the kinetic conflict. Its sophisticated design represented the pinnacle of pre-digital cryptography, yet its ultimate defeat at the hands of Turing's intellectual brilliance and the computational power of the bombs foreshadowed the dawn of the digital age. The silent battle against Enigma, fought with minds and machines in the clandestine halls of Bletchley Park, was a defining struggle of World War II, a testament to the fact that even the most complex ciphers could be broken by superior intellect and ingenuity. The Enigma machine, once deemed unbreakable, became a testament to the ingenuity of the codebreakers, particularly Alan Turing, who unraveled its secrets and, in doing so, changed the course of history. Beneath the practical achievements of code-breaking and computer design, Alan Turing's brilliance was fundamentally rooted in a profound and unconventional mathematical mind, a singular genius for abstract logic and conceptual innovation that allowed him to see beyond existing paradigms. His contributions were not merely incremental improvements, but fundamental shifts in understanding, reshaping the very definitions of computation, algorithms, and intelligence. It was this pure, almost philosophical approach to mathematics that truly set him apart and enabled him to lay the intellectual groundwork for so much of the modern digital world. From his early days, Turing displayed an innate ability to grasp the essence of mathematical problems, often arriving at solutions through unconventional paths that baffled his more conventionally trained teachers. He was not content with merely applying existing formulas. He sought to understand the underlying principles, the fundamental logic that governed a problem. This deep-seated curiosity about the why rather than just the how propelled his groundbreaking work. His self-taught approach to complex calculus in his youth is a testament to this independent, intuitive grasp of mathematical concepts. At King's College, Cambridge, Turing immersed himself in the abstract world of mathematical logic and computability theory, a realm far removed from immediate practical applications. His seminal 1936 paper, On Computable Numbers, with an application to the Instudungs problem, was a work of pure mathematics, addressing a foundational question posed by David Hilbert about the limits of provability in computation. In this paper, he conceived of the universal Turing machine, an abstract mathematical model that provided a formal definition of what it means for something to be computable by an algorithm. This theoretical construct, born from the depths of pure logic, ultimately provided the conceptual blueprint for every general-purpose computer ever built. It demonstrated that a single machine, given the right program, could simulate any other machine, a profound insight into the universality of computation. Turing's mathematical mind allowed him to identify the inherent weaknesses in the German Enigma cipher. While others might have focused on brute force attacks, Turing recognized that the Enigma's design, combined with German operational procedures, created certain statistical biases and logical inconsistencies that could be exploited. His design for the bomb machine was not merely an engineering feat. It was a physical embodiment of a sophisticated logical deduction, a machine designed to systematically rule out millions of incorrect settings based on mathematical principles and a clever application of cribs. He translated abstract cryptanalytic theory into a practical, powerful computational device, demonstrating the direct application of pure mathematical thought to a pressing wartime problem. Even his post-war work on artificial intelligence stemmed from his foundational mathematical insights. When he posed the question, "Can machines think?" and subsequently devised the Turing test, he was not just speculating. He was applying a logical, behavioral approach to a deeply philosophical problem. He recognized that if intelligence could be reduced to a series of logical operations on symbols, which he had formally defined with the Turing machine, then a machine could, in principle, exhibit intelligent behavior. His discussions on learning machines and neural networks, nascent concepts in his 1950 paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, revealed his mathematical intuition about how complex systems could adapt and evolve, driven by computational processes. Turing's genius was not limited to discrete mathematics and logic. In his later work, he explored the mathematical basis of morphogenesis, the biological process that causes an organism to develop its shape. His 1952 paper, The Chemical Basis of Morphogenesis, proposed a model involving reaction-diffusion systems, where two interacting chemicals, diffusing at different rates, could create patterns and structures in biological systems. This groundbreaking work, though unrelated to computers, showcased the breadth of his mathematical intuition and his ability to apply abstract reasoning to diverse scientific fields, revealing underlying universal patterns. The sheer depth and originality of Turing's mathematical contributions are profound. He dared to ask fundamental questions about the nature of computation, the limits of algorithms, and the very definition of intelligence. His legacy as a pure mathematician is as significant as his achievements in practical engineering and code breaking. He provided the theoretical bedrock upon which the entire digital age rests, proving that abstract logical concepts can have the most tangible and transformative effects on the real world. Alan Turing's mind was a crucible of pure genius, distilling complex problems to their most fundamental mathematical essence, and in doing so, he laid out the intellectual architecture for a future he could only dimly perceive. His intellectual clarity remains a shining example of mathematical thought in its purest, most powerful form. Beyond his direct technical and theoretical contributions to the creation of artificial intelligence, Alan Turing's insights have profoundly shaped the ongoing philosophical and ethical discourse surrounding AI, posing questions that remain central to our understanding of machine intelligence, consciousness, and the very nature of humanity. His work did not merely enable AI, it forced humanity to confront its deepest assumptions about thought, free will, and the unique status of the human mind. The implications of a thinking machine, as envisioned by Turing, continue to resonate in contemporary debates about AI's capabilities and its place in society. Turing's 1950 paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, was not just a technical exposition, it was a philosophical manifesto. By introducing the Turing test, he intentionally sidestepped the thorny metaphysical questions of what is consciousness, or what does it truly mean to think? Instead, he proposed a pragmatic, behavioral definition. If a machine can fool a human interrogator into believing it is human through conversation, then it effectively demonstrates intelligence. This approach fundamentally shifted the philosophical debate from internal states to observable behavior, providing a tangible, albeit controversial, benchmark for AI researchers. This pragmatic stance continues to influence how AI is evaluated, focusing on its utility and performance rather than its subjective experience. However, the Turing test itself sparked immense philosophical debate, which continues to this day. Critics, such as John Searle with his Chinese room argument, contend that merely passing the test, i.e., manipulating symbols correctly, does not equate to true understanding or consciousness. They argue that a machine might effectively simulate intelligence without genuinely possessing it, raising profound questions about the distinction between strong AI, truly conscious machines, and weak AI, machines that only simulate intelligence. These debates, directly provoked by Turing's formulation, force us to grapple with the very definition of intelligence and whether it can exist outside of a biological substrate. Turing also presciently touched upon the ethical implications of advanced AI. In his paper, he considered the possibility of machines performing tasks traditionally reserved for humans, leading to questions about the future of work and the potential displacement of human labor. While he generally held an optimistic view that machines would free humanity for higher pursuits, his very conceptualization of powerful, adaptable machines implicitly raised questions about control, autonomy, and the potential for unintended consequences. He hinted at the idea of machines that could learn and evolve, posing the question of how much control humans would retain over systems capable of self-improvement. His personal experiences with societal prejudice, though unrelated to his AI work, ironically underscore a crucial ethical dimension of AI development: the importance of fairness, bias, and the potential for discrimination embedded within algorithmic systems. Just as a society's biases can lead to the persecution of individuals, so too can biases in data or design lead to AI systems that perpetuate or even amplify societal inequalities. While Turing himself didn't directly write about AI ethics in this modern sense, his life serves as a powerful backdrop, reminding us of the human element in technological advancement and the ethical responsibilities that accompany groundbreaking innovation. The very notion of creating thinking machines challenges anthropocentric views and raises existential questions about humanity's unique place in the universe. If machines can achieve intelligence, what then truly distinguishes us? Turing dared to explore this territory, prompting future generations of philosophers, ethicists, and policymakers to develop frameworks for responsible AI development, addressing issues like accountability, transparency, privacy, and the potential impact of superintelligent systems. His insights into machine learning, the concept of a child machine that learns from experience, also raises ethical questions about how AI systems acquire knowledge and values. If AI learns from human data, how do we ensure that it learns desirable traits and not undesirable biases? These are precisely the questions that AI ethics today grapples with, directly stemming from the conceptual pathways Turing opened. Alan Turing's philosophical inquiries into AI were not just academic exercises. They were a prescient glimpse into the profound societal and ethical dilemmas that would accompany the rise of intelligent machines. By daring to ask, "Can machines think?" and offering a pragmatic test, he inaugurated a field of inquiry that continues to challenge our most fundamental assumptions about intelligence, consciousness, and what it means to be human in an increasingly technologically mediated world. His influence extends far beyond the circuitry of computers, deeply permeating the very philosophical bedrock of our relationship with artificial intelligence, ensuring that the ethical debate continues to evolve alongside technological progress. For decades after his tragic and unjust death in 1954, Alan Turing's immense contributions to science, cryptography, and computing remained largely unknown to the public, obscured by the veil of wartime secrecy and the societal prejudices of his era. However, as the veil of secrecy lifted and societal attitudes slowly evolved, a powerful movement for posthumous recognition gained momentum, eventually culminating in official apologies, royal pardons, and a global reevaluation of his extraordinary legacy. This belated, yet profound, tribute rectified a historical injustice and cemented Turing's rightful place as one of the most influential figures of the 20th century. The initial efforts to acknowledge Turing's heroism and scientific genius began quietly, primarily among the academic community and former Bletchley Park colleagues. With the gradual declassification of ultra-intelligence in the 1970s, the astonishing story of the codebreakers and Turing's pivotal role began to emerge. Books like Andrew Hodge's 1983 biography, Alan Turing, The Enigma, brought his life and work to a wider audience, revealing the full scope of his brilliance and the tragic circumstances of his persecution. This biography became a seminal work, sparking greater public awareness and advocacy for justice. The push for an official apology and pardon gained significant public traction in the early 21st century. In 2009, following a public petition signed by tens of thousands, then Prime Minister Gordon Brown issued an eloquent and heartfelt apology on behalf of the British government for the appalling treatment of Alan Turing. Brown acknowledged that Turing's contribution to winning the war was immense and that he deserved to be remembered for his fantastic contribution to humankind rather than for the inhumane way he was treated. This marked a significant turning point in public discourse and official recognition. The apology paved the way for a royal pardon. In 2013, Queen Elizabeth II granted Alan Turing a posthumous royal pardon for his 1952 conviction for gross indecency. This rare and symbolic act of clemency officially expunged the conviction from his record, recognizing it as unjust and discriminatory. This was further cemented by Turing's Law in 2017, which retroactively pardoned thousands of other men convicted under similar homophobic laws in the UK. These acts were crucial steps in rectifying a historical wrong and acknowledging the profound human cost of institutionalized prejudice. Beyond official apologies, numerous modern tributes honor Turing's legacy. He has been widely recognized as the father of theoretical computer science and the father of artificial intelligence. Statues of Turing have been erected in public spaces, including one at the University of Manchester, depicting him seated on a bench with an apple, a poignant reference to his tragic death. Schools, research centers, and even streets have been named in his honor. Perhaps one of the most significant and widely recognized tributes came in 2019 when the Bank of England announced that Alan Turing would be featured on the new £50 banknote, making him the first openly LGBTQ+ person to appear on a British banknote. The design features a photograph of Turing, mathematical formulas from his 1936 paper, technical drawings of the bomb and pilot ACE computers, and a ticker tape depicting his birth date in binary code. This decision placed him among the most celebrated figures in British history, bringing his story into millions of households daily. His story has also been immortalized in popular culture, most notably through the critically acclaimed 2014 film, The Imitation Game, which brought his life, his wartime work, and his tragic persecution to a global audience, sparking widespread awareness and empathy for his struggle. The film played a significant role in cementing his status as a cultural icon and a symbol of both genius and injustice. The posthumous recognition of Alan Turing is a powerful testament to the long arc of history and the eventual triumph of truth and justice. It serves as a vital reminder that societal values evolve and that heroes, often overlooked in their own time, can eventually receive the recognition they so rightly deserve. Turing's legacy, now free from the shadows of secrecy and prejudice, stands as an inspiring beacon, illuminating the profound impact one extraordinary individual can have on the world, even as his personal story remains a poignant warning against the destructive power of intolerance. His brilliance, once hidden, now shines brightly, forever etched in the collective consciousness. Even as Alan Turing's life and work are celebrated with newfound reverence, his most audacious inquiries into the nature of intelligence continue to pose enduring mysteries, particularly concerning the elusive concept of consciousness and its potential emergence within advanced artificial intelligence. While Turing provided a pragmatic test for behavioral intelligence, he deliberately sidestepped the deeper philosophical questions of whether a machine could ever truly feel, understand, or possess subjective experience. This profound question, central to the future of AI, remains perhaps the most captivating and challenging frontier of human inquiry, a direct legacy of the intellectual pathways Turing opened. Turing's imitation game offered a pragmatic criterion. If a machine's conversational responses are indistinguishable from a human's, then for practical purposes, it can be considered intelligent. Break time equals 0. 25s/. This was a powerful tool for advancing AI research, focusing on observable output rather than internal, unprovable states. However, as AI systems become increasingly sophisticated, capable of generating incredibly human-like text, images, and even complex logical reasoning, the philosophical debate intensifies. Critics of the Turing test, notably John Searle with his Chinese room argument, argue that merely simulating understanding, manipulating symbols according to rules, does not equate to genuine understanding or consciousness. A machine might generate perfect prose about love or sadness without ever truly experiencing those emotions. This distinction between simulating intelligence and possessing consciousness is at the heart of the hard problem of consciousness in philosophy. Can consciousness simply emerge from sufficiently complex computation, or does it require a biological substrate, something unique to organic brains? Turing's work implicitly pushed this question to the forefront. If we can build a machine that acts intelligent in every observable way, what distinguishes it from a truly conscious being? The very possibility of strong AI, machines with genuine cognitive states, directly stems from the theoretical groundwork Turing laid for universal computation. The future of AI, envisioned by Turing in its nascent form, now stands on the cusp of revolutionary advancements. Large language models, LLMs, can generate creative writing, answer complex questions, and even engage in nuanced philosophical discussions. AI is excelling in tasks once thought uniquely human, from medical diagnosis to artistic creation. This rapid progress compels us to revisit Turing's questions with renewed urgency. As AI systems become more autonomous and integrated into our lives, questions about their potential sentience, moral status, and accountability become critical. If an AI could truly feel pain or joy, what ethical obligations would we have towards it? The mystery of consciousness itself remains one of the greatest unsolved problems in science. We do not fully understand how our own brains give rise to subjective experience. This lack of understanding makes it incredibly challenging to determine if, or when, an AI might cross the threshold into true consciousness. Some theories, influenced by computationalism, suggest that consciousness is an emergent property of complex information processing, implying that a sufficiently advanced AI could, in principle, become conscious. Others maintain that it requires biological properties that cannot be replicated purely through algorithms. Turing's visionary embrace of machines that could learn and adapt, which underpins modern machine learning, also adds layers of mystery. If an AI can continuously improve itself, write its own code, and even design new hardware, what are the ultimate limits of its intelligence and potential for independent thought? The concept of superintelligence, an AI vastly surpassing human intellectual capability, raises profound questions about humanity's future role and control. These are not mere science fiction scenarios, but active areas of philosophical and safety research in the AI community. The enduring mystery of consciousness within AI is a testament to Alan Turing's profound foresight. He dared to open the door to a new intellectual frontier, one where machines could not only perform calculations, but also engage in behaviors that mimic human thought. While he provided the theoretical tools and initial conceptual frameworks, the ultimate answers to these questions lie in the future, driven by continued scientific discovery and philosophical inquiry. The ongoing quest to understand and create AI is not just a technological race. It is a journey into the deepest mysteries of the mind, spurred on by the legacy of a man who once asked, "Can machines think?" His influence ensures that the philosophical implications of AI will continue to evolve alongside its technological advancements, shaping not only what machines can do, but also what it truly means to be human. The mystery of the conscious machine remains the ultimate Turing test, one that humanity is still wrestling to understand. The extraordinary life and enduring legacy of Alan Turing stand as a towering testament to the transformative power of human intellect, a narrative rich with moments of unparalleled brilliance, profound tragedy, and a foresight that stretched far beyond his own era. From the crucible of World War II, where his quiet genius cracked the seemingly unbreakable Enigma code, to his foundational conceptualization of the universal computer and the very definition of artificial intelligence, Turing's contributions irrevocably reshaped the 20th century and laid the indispensable groundwork for the digital age we inhabit today. He was the unsung hero whose analytical prowess saved countless lives, and simultaneously, the visionary philosopher who dared to ask whether machines could truly think, setting the agenda for generations of computer scientists and AI researchers. Yet, his story is also a poignant and stark reminder of the devastating consequences of societal prejudice. The unjust persecution he endured for his private life, culminating in his tragic early death, casts a long, somber shadow over his monumental achievements. This dark chapter underscores the profound human cost of intolerance and the imperative for empathy and justice, ensuring that such a grievous wrong is never again inflicted upon those whose unique perspectives and contributions are invaluable to humanity's progress. The posthumous apologies and pardons, while decades too late, represent a belated but crucial rectification of history, finally giving Alan Turing the public recognition and honor he so rightly deserved. Today, the threads of Turing's genius are woven into the very fabric of our interconnected world. Every computer, every smartphone, every intricate algorithm that powers our digital lives owes a fundamental debt to his theoretical insights and practical innovations. His questions about machine intelligence, once confined to abstract philosophical journals, are now at the forefront of global discourse as we grapple with the capabilities and ethical implications of increasingly sophisticated AI systems. The enduring mystery of consciousness within machines, a question that lurked beneath his pragmatic Turing test, continues to challenge our deepest assumptions about thought, sentience, and what it truly means to be human in an age where artificial minds are rapidly evolving. Alan Turing's legacy transcends mere scientific accomplishment. It is a profound narrative about the power of the human mind to overcome seemingly impossible challenges, to envision radically new futures, and to inspire a relentless pursuit of knowledge. His life reminds us that true genius often walks an unconventional path, that progress can emerge from the most unexpected corners, and that the greatest advancements are often accompanied by complex ethical considerations. As we continue our journey into the uncharted territories of artificial intelligence, the light of Alan Turing's brilliance guides us, urging us to embrace intellectual curiosity, champion justice, and responsibly shape a future where the boundless potential of computation serves the highest aspirations of humanity. His spirit, a blend of logical rigor and profound vision, forever illuminates the dawn of the digital age.